Hey guys, welcome to Wrestling Daze and welcome to this reaction video as we take a look at the top 10 worst WWE video games. This coming courtesy of Watch Mojo. We're going to react to this video and I'm really looking forward to this because my knowledge of video games is very poor. Even my knowledge of WWE games is quite poor. There's quite a few years where I just didn't get the game, to be honest. Let's have a look. Let's take a walk. We'll see what the top 10 is. Here's number 10.
Number 10. WWF/WWE Raw. The first WWE game to be released on the Xbox, but the last for its 13 years on tenure on PC. WWF Raw had to undergo a huge change shortly after shipping, when the World Wrestling Federation had to get the F out and became the WWE. The movesets for each wrestler were boring and sloppily animated, grapples rarely connected, and each match took place inside the, by then outdated, Raw is War arena. Plus, the camera angles were constantly at a weird 60-degree angle. Raw had more potential than Cesaro, but was executed like The Fiend's push.
That just strikes me as a game that is just bad. I mean, I don't think it's offensive. I don't think there's anything there that's going to mean that it'll stay on this list. I'm sure there'll be other games that come along in the future that will knock it off.
Number 9. WWF In Your House.
No, I ain't having this. I'm not having this. Like, by today's standards, this is going to have aged terribly. But this was kind of their take on Mortal Kombat, where you actually had, like, photorealistic wrestlers. Like, I'm sure you've seen those old videos where they get the wrestlers in to do all the different moves and they kind of capture it. Like, this was revolutionary and quite interesting backgrounds.
For some PlayStation titles like Metal Gear Solid and Crash Bandicoot, taking a retroactive look will showcase a golden age of video game innovation. For others like WWF In Your House, not so much. So far removed from the source material that it isn't even a wrestling game, In Your House, like its predecessor, is a photorealistic Mortal Kombat-inspired fighting sim complete with fatality-esque finishers and meta arenas.
Yeah.
There are little run-ins of promise, like a decent roster and enhanced commentary, but it never managed to put money in the bank.
Where's the problem? This is awesome. Did you see the Undertaker world? And look at this, you're like fighting in like a pit.
Number 8.
No,
WWE
I'm not
Crush
having this.
Hour.
This is a great game. This is like Twisted Metal. I mean, you're driving around in a car. Is he going to say that this isn't wrestling related again? Which I can totally see it on this one. I mean, you are driving around as a car, but you're like firing off weapons. It's got that sort of Mario Kart Twisted Metal vibe to it. I don't think every WWE game should be or needs to be in a wrestling ring, like actually going up against each other.
Why? That's literally the only question that anyone had when this was announced. A cross between Twisted Metal and Mad Max, and with
Why not?
players fight other WWE superstars in battle-ready vehicles in order to wrestle control of all TV networks from Vince McMahon.
That's probably a good idea in 2024, actually.
It's actually quite fun, a little bit, but it's got barely anything to do with the namesake, which is why it's so bad. Number 7. WWF Betrayal.
Don't know it.
The last in our trifecta of wrestling games that took out the wrestling. On this occasion, Stephanie McMahon has been kidnapped, and it's up to your choice from a rather minute number of 4 superstars to rescue her.
What's wrong with a Wrestling Streets of Rage game? This looks awesome. You gotta save Stephanie. Let's go, man.
The game is obscenely difficult thanks to a poor depth of field. And yes, this game is a side-scroller, just like Streets of Rage, as opposed to a wrestling game a la everything else in the franchise. Number 6.
Okay.
WWE 2K Battlegrounds.
I actually bought this game because obviously there was a lot of drama around the 2K game at this point, and I'm sure that's probably number 1. I think, was it 2K20? And so they released this as something different. Now, I never actually played it. I really like the look of the trailer, though. I did download it. I've got it on the Switch, but I never actually played it. So I'm really interested to see the review of this one.
There's nothing particularly wrong with Battlegrounds, although there isn't a lot that's right with it either. The art style is bizarre, and what's worse is that all of the wrestlers share moves with several other wrestlers, which makes no sense! The most egregious part of Battlegrounds is that it was announced off the heels of 2K's almost apologetic promise to overhaul their WWE Games division, only to lock most of this one behind an obnoxious amount of microtransactions.
Okay.
Really.
So, do you know, I do remember that now, actually, when I heard that they'd locked away a lot of content. Like, I think that's still a thing with games where you have to pay to unlock, or you have to, like, work through the game to unlock stuff. I can totally understand that. Sharing of moves with other wrestlers, that does kind of seem like they've cut some corners. I really love the worlds, though, and I disagree about the art style.
Number 5, WWE Aftershock.
Never played it. Looks awful.
The N-Gage was a shell-shaped handheld console mobile phone hybrid that intended to rival Nintendo's Game Boy at the time. The only problem was that it was riddled with problems, as the platform wasn't strong enough for developers Exient Entertainment to add a Create a Wrestler mode, story mode, or more than 11 wrestlers. That said, there wasn't much variation in the movesets, and the animations were way too sticky for it.
This looks really bad, actually. N-Gage, I know that was a very weak device, but this just looks poor, doesn't it? This looks poor. And if you think this is 2005.
Number 4, WWE 2K15.
Okay.
Weight 286 pounds. The
Looks fine.
WWE World Heavyweight Champion, Brock Lesnar.
The plans for this actual wrestling game promised a complete overhaul of features, new and improved fighting dynamics, and graphics that would fool you into thinking that you were going to be doused in sweat at any moment. Plus, this was going to be the first WWE game on the then new generation of consoles, the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One. What we got was just pure blandness. Having delayed launch by a month, the new-gen games were slower and boring despite looking great.
I think it's really hard, isn't it, to, like, communicate the disappointment factor. So, like, I can look at this and the graphics look fine, and if I think back to, like, this is nearly 10 years old, I'm like, I don't see the issue. But if this was, like, a big promise that it was going to revolutionize stuff and we were going to be on the next-gen consoles, then I can understand. But this, I can't imagine this was worse than the last game we just looked at.
Number 3, WWE Survivor Series.
Okay. Don't know it. Looks rubbish.
The Survivor Series was a Game Boy Advance title released as a follow-up to 2002's WWE Road to WrestleMania X8. This game suffered from a lackluster roster and lacked so many staple features. There's no Create a Wrestler mode, or even most of the more exotic match types. The graphics were subpar for a 2004 game as well. Number 2, WWE 2K18 Switch version.
I've heard a lot of frustrations about the Switch versions. I think that's true of the Switch, really. It doesn't have all the features. I think it's the same with, like, Football Manager and FIFA and all of those types of games. So I'd imagine that this was similar.
With cross-platform games that are ported for the Nintendo Switch, you know that there are going to be one, maybe two compromises. The quality of the graphics and the frame rate are likely to drop slightly. Generally, though, most Switch ports can work well. WWE 2K18 isn't even on the radar of being decent. A huge drop in frame rate meant the wrestlers practically ran backwards through the match. Royal Rumbles, in particular, saw the worst instances of slowdown. Secondly, there was a huge deficit in features that had appeared on the PS4 and Xbox versions. Slow and broken, WWE 2K18 is the biggest kind of step down, but not as much as our number 1 pick.
Let's go!
Number 1. WWE 2K20.
It had to be. Infamous. Infamous.
People come back from being in a lot worse shape.
If there was ever a WWE game that deserved a choke slam by The Undertaker specifically, it was this. There are a plethora of YouTube compilations of glitches that speak for themselves. Our particular favorite is this, where players are forced to wrestle a ghost. Visually worse and mechanically poorer than previous entries, development did not go smoothly, with series veterans Ukes leaving midway through. As a result of the negative reviews, publisher 2K canceled WWE 2K21 and piled their efforts into building a new game from the ground up in 2K22.
So there we go. So that was the top 10 worst WWE video games, and certainly there's a good chunk in there that I agree with, but there's a good chunk that I disagree with. But I can understand the argument. I think a lot of games, they just tend to get little tweaks rather than, you know, big updates every year. So I think it means a lot of games are quite similar. So I suppose these are the ones that kind of stood out the most. Yeah, let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Let me know as well what you thought about this video, these reaction videos, if you enjoy them, if you have some other subjects you would like us to take a look at. I'm sticking on Watch Mojo. I'm loving going through their videos, and there's so many more that we can do. So thanks a lot for watching. Thank you for the support. Really appreciate it. I'll see you next time. Bye for now.